All right. Who's excited to be here? You know what? I'm actually as well, because I know that God can speak through me, even though you may leave this place today with a completely different message than I tried giving you. That's fine. I'm okay with that, because I know that the Holy Spirit can speak to us in His own way, and He can speak to each one of you individually according to your needs. So I'm not going to call this my thing today a teaching message necessarily. It'll be more, I want it to be an encouragement to all of you, more so than actually a teaching message. So it's not that I'm going to give you a bunch of new information and insights of the Bible and stuff like that, but I really would like for you to be encouraged. So now if you leave this place and you didn't get encouraged, you know I didn't do my part, I guess. So whatever. I shouldn't have said that. But I guess seeing that we've had a few tough months here, I guess, or maybe even almost like a year and a half where things have been different than normal. I feel there's been a lot of new things that have happened in our lives, things we haven't experienced before, which has put inside of us struggles with ourselves, even kind of seeing with and I'm probably giving you somewhat of a reflection of how I've been feeling. So, but I'm just guessing a lot of you have felt the same, where we've been dealing with restrictions and having to do with COVID. That's the only time I'll mention that word this morning. And a lot of debates have been going on about this thing, from one side of the extremes to the other side of the extremes. And then somewheres within all that, there's a happy medium. And so there's some of us who have taken part in debates on the one side, we've taken parts on the other side, and sometimes defending either one. And just a lot of emotional turmoil that something like that can create. And then also within the home, decisions that you moms have had to make with your kids, maybe coming up with birthday parties or other stuff they want to do, and you say no to things that in your heart, you know, would be an awesome thing for them to do, it would be healthy for them. Or you might have said yes, and then there's the other part of it, am I doing wrong by doing that? And then also the dads as well, like we're supposed to be the leaders of the home, we're supposed to be the ones that are protecting this family, and yet things seem to be not going right, and you would just like to take this whole family into a place of a better place, a place where life is good again and secure and all that. And so there's that part of it. We may also have been dealing with relationships. Some of that can come out of this as well, or even I'm not just necessarily talking about that previous word that I said. Also other things that come up in our life. Simply having to do with relationships within your family, and maybe things haven't gone the way you planned with your boyfriend or your girlfriend, and then there could also be a battling of temptations, like something in your life that you're trying to overcome, but you know you're getting tired of this thing. You feel like, I can't get over this. Why can't I get over this thing? And so all of this can create a messy feeling on the inside of us. And it's kind of how I felt earlier this summer, where I felt like there was so much stuff going on inside of me, coming off a winter like we did, and then going into summer. And with me growing crops, we had the drought come on. And so I just felt a lot of emotional turmoil inside of me. A lot of, God, what is happening? Why is all this going on in this world? With the church shutdown that we did and having to make those decisions, it's just like you're making decisions that are totally against your inner belief even. It's almost like you're living in some areas living in rebellion against yourself. And so a lot of just messy, emotional turmoil, kind of. You know what I'm talking about? And it's not necessarily that we felt like, there was the one thing that, if this could change, I would feel good again. It was more like just a cloud hanging over me, more like just, where I used to be joyful, I felt kind of down, or when I should be smiling and happy, I could barely do a grin even, or at work, you should be the guy that's encouraging your fellow employee or fellow workers there, but you're not. You just don't feel it. You just don't have that joy, that spark in your eyes and the dents in your feet, whatever you want to call it. And so this was me. I was feeling that way. Walking around like, barely breathing, but you're alive. And it's a hard place to be. It's a hard place to live in. And so my brother told me about a accident scene he came across here. This was a couple months ago. But he witnessed a car rolling and rolled into the ditch, rolled a couple of times, and the guy crawls out of the car all soaking wet from being in the ditch. And so my brother's talking to the 911 operator, and the 911 operator's asking him quite a few different questions, and he told her the guy is walking down the highway, he's leaving the scene of the accident, and somewhere's a few questions later, she asks him, does the guy have a heartbeat? And at the time, I'm like, that's actually kind of funny. Like, he had told her the guy's walking down the highway, and now she's asking, does the guy have a heartbeat? But I got to thinking about this. Like, I'm sure she was doing the protocol questions, right? So it's all good. But I started thinking later that, yeah, but that's how some of us are feeling sometimes. It's like we're walking through life, but it's almost like, do we have a heartbeat? And so, like, almost like we're dead but walking. It's an emotional state that we can get into where life just loses its meaning. And so that was me, and I would go check my fields, and I'd be walking in my crop, and every day I went out there, they looked worse than the day before, and I'd see all these cracks in the ground start opening up, and I'm like, God, we need rain. Like, where's this rain, God? Why aren't you coming through for us? Like, what are you doing to your earth? It's dying, it's drying up, and don't you care about us? I just didn't like it. It just was bad. It was a feeling of depression, and you'd look out your front windows, your grass was all brown and dry, and pastures, haylands, a lot of just a feeling of, where is this rain? We need rain. By the way, that's what I was calling this thing was healing rain. So my heart was just crying to God for a healing rain. Where is this healing rain that we need so bad? And so with all this going on in our lives, what do we do about this? How do we make it through this? And so I was reminded of the story of Joseph. And I'm going to read a few verses out of the story of Joseph. When we think about Joseph, we often think about him being this. Have you guys got a timer for me there, please? Not sure where I'm at with this. Okay. Anyways, I was reminded of Joseph, and when we think about Joseph, we often think about him as a very successful person. We're thinking all the things he went through, and I'll just read a few verses just to put a little bit of perspective on this. So, Genesis 39, 2 to 5. But the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a successful and prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. And his master saw the Lord was with him, and the Lord made all that he did to flourish and succeed in his hand. So Joseph pleased Potiphar and found favor in his sight, and he served him. And his master made him supervisor over his house, and he put all that he had in his charge. So we see that he was successful with Potiphar. He really took a liking to him. Then he got put in prison later. And same thing, the warden of the prison, he also found Joseph to be a very brilliant guy, a very positive thinking person. And so there again, we see in Genesis 39, 21, 22, but the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy and loving kindness and gave him favor in the sight of the warden of the prison. And the warden of the prison committed to Joseph's care all the prisoners who were in prison, and whatsoever was done there, he was in charge of it. Very, very prosperous person he was. A lot of success. Whatever he touched turned into success. And how is that possible? We know that if he's been in prison and this has been given to him, that means that he was the one that was walking around encouraging guys. He was the one that was putting life or making life better for his fellow inmates that were in prison. And then again, I got a shaky table here. I didn't know this table was so shaky. So later on, he was made governor over all of Egypt. Pharaoh found him to be the perfect guy to take on this job. Genesis 41, 39 to 43. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, "For as much as your God has shown you all this, there's nobody as intelligent and discreet and understanding and wise as you are. You shall have charge over my house, and all my people shall be governed according to your word, with reverence, submission, and obedience. Only in matters of the throne will I be greater than you." So Pharaoh said to Joseph, "See, I have set you over all the land of Egypt." And Pharaoh took off his signet ring from his hand and put it on Joseph's hand and arrayed him in official vestments of fine linen and put a gold chain about his neck. He made him to ride in the second chariot which he had, and officials cried before him, "Bow the knee." And he set him over all the land of Egypt. So he was now second in command of Egypt. He was a governor of Egypt. He was the one that was in charge of everybody going in and out. He was the one that was in charge of all this grain that had gathered to feed the country. So he was in a high position. But then we read I'm going to find my verse here. Genesis 45, verse 2. Some point in Joseph's life, after his brothers showed up and all that, verse 2 says, "And he wept and sobbed aloud, and the Egyptians who had just left him heard it, and the household of Pharaoh heard about it." So why would Joseph, the governor of Egypt, second in command of the land, why would he come to a place where we now find him weeping? We now find him sobbing in a different room, where literally the rest of the people in his palace there, they hear him. So I believe it's been a sobbing, a loud sobbing, not a wailing, but a sobbing, a real loud cry. Why would Joseph, who seems to have everything going for him, whatever he does seems to turn into success, why would we find him in a place like this? And so I believe there was a part of Joseph, he had a lot of brokenness in his life. He had, yes, a big part of his heart was healthy, it was good, there was success in him, but he also had a part of his heart that was broken and dry. And so I started thinking about this when I see my fields like this, and I know all of you have seen your lawns and that, they're dry. But isn't that a good place to be for a soil like this, right? It's opening up. It says, "I'm ready." The soil is crying for rain. It says, "I'm opening up. I need rain." It's ready to receive whatever rain comes down. It's just opening up, and it says, "Come," and crying to God. Even the earth is crying. The plants are crying for rain. They want it. And by the way, I grew these beautiful sunflowers in this drought with cracked up soil. They grew thick stems right out of the cracked up soil. And so I see this also as a sign of, even though we have areas in our heart that are dry and broken, we can still have places of beauty. And this is where Joseph was at. He had areas in his heart that were broken. His mom passed away when his brother Benjamin was born, suffered loss. His mom. And we know that that in itself can bring a lot of turmoil and struggles into your life. Stan mentioned about it here the other day when we had these power talks, how his dad passed away and what it did to him. He needed healing. He needed healing just from that one thing alone. He needed healing. He needed God's touch. And then he was thrown into a pit. His brothers threw him into a pit to die. Oh, it's counting down. Okay, so I got to hurry up here. Good, thanks for putting that up there. His brothers threw him into a pit to die, and then he suffered that, a near-death experience. And then they sold him into slavery. And we also see later how he cried to God he cried to his brothers to save him out of that pit. He didn't want to die. He didn't want to die, and he begged for them to let him go. So a lot of brokenness in Joseph's heart, a lot of turmoil inside of him, and yet he was living a life of success. And for a lot of us, we go through the same things in life where there's areas of brokenness on the inside of us. That water is good. Yep. So what I see about Joseph in his life here is that his healing came through him serving. His healing came through the areas in his heart where he was healthy, he served. And I believe that is key to a lot of us. Even though we have brokenness on the inside of us, even though we're hurting, even though there's pain on the inside, even though there's areas in our heart that we're crying to God for healing, we're saying that I need healing in this area. I need healing. And some of us are saying that we're hurting and we can't do life until a certain thing will change. Until then, I can't serve, or I can't minister, or I can't be the guy that can encourage somebody at work because I have this pain inside of me. Some of us are saying that, my relationship with my partner isn't going that well because there may be a hurt, there may be a pain inside of you. And what God is saying is that I see all that. I see that you have all that mess in your life. I see that you're hurting. I see there's areas of brokenness inside your heart. He sees that. And with Joseph, he's seen it. And God still told Joseph to come. I need you. He had work for Joseph. He had a purpose for him. He had areas in Joseph's life that God knew that Joseph could flourish in. And so God still called Joseph to serve, to do a work. He still went about doing his day-to-day work, and he was very successful in it. And you know what? With Joseph, his healing literally came through doing the things that he was good at. The areas of his heart that were healthy, he was faithful to God with those areas, and his healing came through being faithful in those areas. I could ask the worship team to come up, please. Would be appreciated. So all of us have these areas in our heart that need healing, that are cracked and broken, just like Joseph did. And I believe that for us to get through some of these places, we need to find the areas that we're strong in. We need to find the beauty that is in our hearts, because all of us have beauty in our hearts. All of us have areas in our hearts that are strong, where you're good at. And just because, like I said earlier, with the stuff that we've been through, you're feeling messy, you're feeling like you've failed in certain areas, yes, God sees that. And He knows about it. He knows about it. But He says, that's okay. I'm not talking about intentional sin and that messes you up. I'm referring to areas of just a mental and emotional feeling of darkness hanging over you, a feeling of not being able to thrive. That's what I'm talking about. God says, I see that. He says, I see your mess. But he says, I'm okay with it. I still want you to come to me. I still need you. I still need you to serve me. I still need you to make a difference in my kingdom, because you can. All of you have areas in your life you can still excel in. Even you moms and dads, yeah, sometimes you feel discouraged with how your days have gone, or you feel like, I failed again today. I was a total failure. God knows about it. He sees it. He sees you struggling with a certain sin that you feel like you keep falling in and you can't be victorious in. God sees that. He sees you fighting hard. You might be getting tired of battling. God sees that. But he says, it's okay. I still need you, because he also sees the areas in your life that you are strong at. He sees the areas in your life where you could flourish in. And guess what? That is often where your healing will be. In doing the things that you can do. Living that life, because that can put you into the place at the right time where God can send healing. So can he send healing to those cracked areas? Yes, he can. God can send healing to those areas. He did it for Joseph. He did it for Joseph. God hasn't changed. He's not out of miracles. And he did it for me. Like I said earlier, I was walking in the field and I was crying to God, where are you, God? I need this rain, God. And God showed me that the same thing can be within our hearts, where our hearts are broken and cracked and dry. And our hearts are crying out, God, where are you? We need rain. God, I need healing. I need healing to come. I need to get out of this cloud. And if I was to ask you, what is going on with you? What is bothering you? You might not even be able to tell me what it is that you're struggling with. It's just altogether a messy feeling that you would like to lift off. And you would like for God to come and touch you and heal these areas. God can do that. There was this one day I was driving with my truck down the perimeter highway and through Headingley, and I was listening to a song, and all of a sudden it just hit me. I was thinking about a lot of these things that were tough with me, that were bothering me, and I just started sobbing. And like Joseph sobbed, it's okay if we sob. There can be a lot of healing in that, but the Holy Spirit just came on me, and I started sobbing and for about 15 minutes, and a lot of this hurt, a lot of this pain, a lot of this dark feeling just rolled out of me. We're crying to God for a healing rain. God, where are you? Can you send a healing rain? Can you touch me? Can you heal the brokenness inside of me? But don't allow that to be the thing that keeps you back from living life, because we need to live life. Even in the midst of hard times, we still need to live life. God is calling us to still live, because that's what he has designed us to be, living beings, and he knows the pains we're going through. Can he change them? Yes, he can. For Joseph, it took 17 years, whatever it was, until finally he realized that, yes, Benjamin is still alive. Yes, my father is still alive. His brothers came back to him, and I believe that was a sob that was going through the palace that day, is Joseph realizing, God, you have been faithful. Yes, God, you are still alive. Yes, God, you can still do miracles. You can still heal a broken heart. And his life changed. His heart was healed. The cracked areas in his heart began to fill up. He received a healing rain, a rain that came back to give him life again. And this is what God is telling all of us. He says, live, because he's still alive. He's still on the throne. He's not out of miracles. He can still do miracles. He could do it in Bible times. He still does it today. He is into healing hearts. He's into healing hearts, but don't get discouraged within the waiting. Don't get discouraged within the waiting, because guess what? You will always have issues that you have to deal with. Don't wait to serve Christ. Don't wait to do deeds for Jesus. Don't wait to be this encouraging, great mom until this and this thing is lifted. Then I will. No, we need to be encouragement. We need to flourish in the areas we can. And within that, we may find our healing. But don't give up. Keep waiting. Keep crying to God, because he can fill those areas. He can come and send you a healing rain. And guess what? When Jesus is the one that touches you, when Jesus is the one that comes to give you healing, one touch can heal years and years of pain. It can be a word of encouragement. It can simply be somebody tapping you on the shoulder at the right time. We may even have doubts of whether we need to be in church or not. Should I come to church, or is church worth going to? Yeah, but what if that is a place you need to be and you're going to miss your healing? Because if Joseph hadn't been faithful, he would have missed his healing. If he had given in to temptation with Potiphar's wife, do you think he would have found healing? Would he have ended up being the governor of Egypt? Joseph was faithful in what God gave him amidst a painful, broken, cracked heart. He was faithful with what God gave him. So I'm challenging all of you, all of us today, let's be faithful with God, what God has given us. Let's keep serving Christ even in spite of the pain, the brokenness that we have in our hearts, areas of our hearts that are broken. We still have healthy areas in our life where we can serve, where we can be of an encouragement. And keep crying to God for rain. Keep crying to God for healing, because it can come. It can come. So let's do this last song, and while we're doing the song Waymaker, if you feel this cry of, God, I need healing. God, I need you to come. I need you to come through for me. God, I need you to change the circumstances that I'm in. God can do this. Jesus can do this. Let's cry out to him, because he can touch you. He can touch you. And you know what? Life is awesome. God is calling us to live. And God, I just ask that you would breathe life back into areas that have died in our lives. God, I ask that you would, I'm calling out places of dryness. I'm calling life back into these areas, God, because you can, God. You can, God. You are the one that can do miracles. You're the one that can heal, God. With your touch, Jesus, you can make us whole again. And I'm asking you right now in Jesus' name to do that to us this morning. The hearts that are broken, areas in our life that are crying for a healing rain, God. I'm believing in you for a healing rain to come, to touch us and to make us whole again. That you would just give us this energy, this thriving, this desire to just serve you again, God, because with you, life is great, Jesus. I'm just asking that you would do this to everyone individually according to their need. Because, God, we've been in a season where we've been tired, and we need you to come and to just breathe life back into us, because we know that you can do this. We know you can do this, so that we can again be the ones that are out there being an encouragement, that we can have a dance in our step again, a sparkle in our eyes, and that this joy can just reflect off our faces again, Jesus. We're believing in you to do this. In Jesus' name.